thanks for joining me. This is Juliet's flip through. She is an A5 sized Shabby Chic Junk Journal, and I was inspired to make her from this embroidery kit that I purchased from an Etsy shop. I will link in the description. And I just loved the sort of dogwood rose style of the embroidery. I will come back to the cover because it's probably my favorite part, and I will show you the rest of the journal. So this is some rose print vintage fabric, and I've done some hand stitching around the edge here. I've used some antique rosary beads to add some interest to the spine. And there is some really sweet glass vintage buttons on the signature strings. On the back, I have made a little pocket with some gorgeous antique bobbin lace and a piece of really fine vintage fabric. On the cover, I've used some vintage quilt, and it is machine sewn on, so it's quite secure, but I have left the edges raw, which is a huge thing for me because normally I have everything tucked in neatly and stitched. So my shabby chic's probably more chic than shabby, but I'm trying to balance that out a little bit. So this is sort of a hybrid journal in terms of the shabby and the chic. On the cover, I have a sari silk bow that I've hand stitched on, and more of that really stunning bobbin lace, and it's just loose to add some texture and movement to the journal. This is actually there's a little closure for this, and I've just used a vintage glass button sewn on there and just wrapped this chiffon, sort of reclaimed chiffon, as the closure, and this flips up. So it's a flip up, and I've used some vintage sort of thick paper, the perfect shade of pink. You can definitely journal on there. And I also have another flip up, and on this one I've stitched some more of that really sweet fabric, and there is a pocket. Inside the pocket is a tag with lace and a handmade paper butterfly, and that just tucks in there. So a little bit does poke out the side, and you can definitely take this out if you don't want that in the pocket and you'd like something else. But that also flips up, and there's writing space on the back, and there's another pocket stitched onto the cover of the journal. And inside that, I've just tucked a little Victorian calling card for Ellen Moore. So Ellen could easily be one of Juliet's friends. So that's just in the pocket there. Of course, you can put whatever you want. So they flip back down, and I just wind that around the button at the bottom there to hold that closed. The closure is seam binding, and I've used large eyelets just to make sure that it holds. And of course, some gorgeous beaded dangles and ruffles down the side there. So we'll open up Juliet's cover, and inside I wanted to do something a bit different. So rather than a lace pocket and fabric, I decided to do some collaging. I have some fabric from the spine, so that's sort of something new as well, and I've machine stitched all of that together. So the two pieces of fabric from the spine are actually what's holding the spine onto holding the covers onto the spine. This is a collaged page from one of my digital kits, the Rose Garden. I will link that directly in the description below this video as well. Some vintage music paper, and I've actually put some images from a printable that I'm currently making. So I may, if I remember, go back to this video and link that as well. I just absolutely love calligraphy and typography, and I found this image and I see myself using it a lot. It's really beautiful. So this is a butterfly book page, and I've used some of this really sweet rose trim through this journal. It's very shabby chic. And this is another page from the Rose Garden printable. I've just sort of torn the edges a little bit, and I have stuck on a wax seal with a rose on it, and that's sort of a very pale shell pink wax seal wax. Wax seal wax. I'm losing my words already. On the back of this printable, I've double-sided it with the Ledger and Lace printable kit, and I have made it light enough for you to actually journal on. So it's a decorative page, but I feel, especially on this side, you could definitely journal on it. A Will's cigarette card of the dog rose, so that's sort of the theme in this journal. Some ledger made into a tuck spot with some sari silk stitched on. This is a tulle trim pocket, and of course roses with a little fabric tab at the top. And this is a tag that I made in a tutorial on how to hand stitch a shabby chic tag. So this is the hand stitching around the tag, and these were scraps from this actual journal. So this is Juliet's tag. I didn't realize it at the time, but it's definitely Juliet's tag. So I will do my best to link that tutorial in the description as well. And I've just tucked that onto some vintage paper. I've used avocado dyed paper in this journal as well, and I have a rose fabric ruffle with a really sweet beaded dangle on there. A book page, one of my favorite books for the calligraphy, the imagery and the poetry, and I've used a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, so everything's in very securely. A embroidery on glaze pocket here with a lace tab at the top, and I've made a gigantic journaling card with ledger at the back, and I've used tulle lace wallpaper, a beautiful hand painted piece. I will link the Etsy shop that I purchased that from in the description as well. More wallpaper, some French documents, and of course, because of the embroidery on the cover, I used some antique embroidery magazine page on the collage tags in this journal as well. This pocket's interesting. I sewed on the lace underneath, and then I stuck this piece of ephemera from the Rose Garden printable on top, so it's a double pocket. So you've got a pocket on the front there, and you've also got the lace pocket behind, and I just liked the layered look of that. And this is another collaged tag on that sweet pink paper. Another tuck spot, so I've sort of left pockets and tuck spots for you to put your things in there, but I've also, I can't help myself, I fill up journals. That's just how they come, that's how they are created. And that's the other side of that printable page and the butterfly page with some Chantilly lace on there. I put a lace pocket here on this book page because I liked that it looked like a lace fence for a garden, but I haven't put anything in it because I just like the look of how it is, but of course you can use that as a pocket. And there's also one on that side as well. That's a collaged page from one of my printables, and a piece of ledger from the United States with a some more of that trim, a advertisement from a long time ago for 3 beautiful 12-inch linen centerpieces, and they were only 20 cents, all for 20 cents. Imagine that. Amazing how you can sort of get a little snapshot of time from those ads. Another tuck spot with some seam binding, really beautiful Swiss lace tulle pocket here, and a lace tab at the top. And I like this, I didn't put anything at the top of this tag because I like that sort of holds the tag in. So that's the collaged page there with some velvet at the bottom. And this is another big pocket here on this beautiful Nepalese handmade paper. I just love the feel and texture of the paper. And some beaded signature strings with the button. This is a antique postcard from the digital kit, and I just love it there as it is, but it is a nice big tuck spot. Another ruffle with a beaded dangle, and that's a beautiful vintage heart-shaped glass bead on there. A tuck spot there, a belly band made out of this stunning, very shabby chic trim, and the other side of that ledger, another tuck spot there with the chantilly lace. And I really love this page that's going to be in my next kit because you can use individual letters. I only lightly collage my journals because I like whoever purchases it to have space to do their own. But I do love the layers, and I love how that looks. B for butterfly, of course, and a little tab there. But I do like, you know, I sort of try and match everything together so it flows as well. That's a gorgeous page from that printable. Some stunning vintage wallpaper there, and to me that looks like a dogwood rose. I also included a floating pocket in my hand-stitched tutorial, and after I had finished the tutorial, I did tear the top off because I prefer that look, and I just stuck a little bit of vintage paper to it so that it sort of fitted in with the rest of this sort of setup here, I guess. Because you don't want things to sort of stick out, but that is a space for you to tuck something in. And I've done a little tab at the top there with a flower, and this is also a tuck spot here with some chiffon silk ruffled along there. Another really pretty ruffle with a dangle, beaded dangle. A lace ruffle to add some interest. Another one of those beautiful book pages, probably one of my favorites because of the roses and the forget-me-nots, and it's just so pale pink and pretty. Some green velvet there, and a rhodeo anglaise pocket with that trim at the top. And this was a tag in a challenge I'm doing on Instagram at the moment, and the challenge was bullion stitch, and I just hate bullion stitch. There's no love there. I struggle with it so much. I've left the back of the tag because it's nice to see, you know, the handmade aspect of things, I feel, and I have just hand stitched some scraps from this journal onto that tag. So I managed 3 little butterflies for the challenge, but the challenge was real for that one. It definitely was. And another pocket there, This is another tag I've made for the challenge. It was to have lots of buttons, but when you, I only like to put buttons around the edge of my journals because I feel if they're in towards the middle, they're so hard and it's difficult to write on. So I decided to make little buttons out of quilt, and I stitched them on, and there's lots of journaling space on that tag. I've just got that tucked into a lace pocket there. I've also put a very simple tab on the side. This is just from a doily, linen from a doily, and I've just sewn a bow on there. So, you know, simple but also quite pretty. This is another piece of ephemera from the kit, and I've just cut it out and made it into a tuck spot. I love this flow here, the butterflies, the fabric and the flowers, F for flower of course, and the tab there. This is also a little pocket, and that's the collage page I used to line the journal with. A stamped and embossed library card holder, and that's a embroidered tag just tucked in there. And fabric pocket with a nice tab on some ledger, and this is another collaged tag with that beautiful paper. I just love that single little flower there, it just looks so precious. A ruffle with another sweet beaded dangle there. And I did love this postcard from the digital kit on its own. It's a big tuck spot obviously, and the signature beads and button there. I just loved how it toned in beautifully with the avocado dyed paper, but I did feel that adding that tag at the back there just added another layer in without detracting from the image or the connection it has to the page. And that's another collaged tag. This was also a tag from the challenge, making little hexagon patches, so I've included that in the journal because the colours just matched in really beautifully. So there's lace pocket and a lace ruffle. There's a lot of handmade sort of tags in this journal. So Juliet's very embroidered. Some of that tulle from the French lace, and a fabric pocket there, and the other side of that collage page, another tuck spot there on the book page, and that's the back. The back cover collaged the same as the front, and I've just put a little penny farthing wax seal there in the corner for something a bit special and interesting at the end. So that is Juliet. I really loved creating her. I had a little break from making these big Shabby Chic journals to make some other things for my shop, but I do enjoy most making these. Does that make sense? I enjoy making these big Shabby Chic journals the most. I don't know. Maybe I was trying to be poetic. I'm not sure. Anyway, I love making Juliet, and thank you for watching. Bye.